Lindsay and I and the fam, the kids, I have two kids, Sophia and Ezra, if you've not seen them around here, morning, and 10 and 12 years old, and so we're just visiting Indiana, which is where we moved here from a little over 10 years ago, back in 2016. And so every year that we go back, it's like we don't even go back every year. Like sometimes, one time we skipped like 3 years, and anybody that's a transplant knows, like sometimes you just need some space. You know what I mean? And so we went back this summer. We just got back on Wednesday. And, nothing makes you feel more grateful for where you are than 10 days in the Midwest. Can I get an amen? I mean, I don't know if anybody else transplants around here, but 10 days in the Midwest, and it's hot, and then it's cool, and then it's raining, and then it's super sunny, and then tornadoes were going on, and I'm just like, I think I'm going back to San Diego, dude. And then not to mention the culture. I can't take credit for this. Alan Watts once said, that, everything east of Denver, Colorado is flat, and so are the people. So I didn't say it, Alan Watts did. Take it up with him. So for all of our friends watching on YouTube, I apologize. There's some cool stuff going on there, but I digress. So we're kind of feeling back into rhythm of life too. So hopefully this feels like a reset. I've missed everyone. It's nothing too, and I'll shut up here. But going back to visit is within a few days, I'm I feel like I live here again, and this place feels like a whole nother planet away. And so I'm really extremely grateful to be here with you today and my friends. It just feels like a homecoming in such a way. So a few announcements here before we get dropped in today. I want to acknowledge that, Juneteenth was Friday, and an important holiday to remember. We have Father's Day today, and then we have the solstice. Summer solstice is today, June 21st. And so we have a lot of really important things that I'm not going to talk anything about today other than right now. Sorry to let anybody down. Somebody texted me, they're like, are you doing a Father's Day message? No, but we could have. There's definitely a thing. We could have talked about what Jesus meant by Father and all this stuff. But I'm going to be really honest with you, and I don't think you would know me to be anything other than that. Just wasn't feeling talking about any of that stuff. I don't know. You just got to follow what the prompting is. And I started to feel into all this. I'm like, should I talk more about maybe some of the Juneteenth significance, maybe Father's Day, maybe solstice, maybe some of this stuff? And I just kept sitting with it, and I'm like, none of those are the things that are leading to prompting to talk about. And so I'm just kind of trusting that. And so today we are going to be talking about a saying from the Gospel of Thomas and process of individuation, things of that nature we'll get to in a little bit. But I did just want to acknowledge that all those things are valid and important, and I'm sure your Instagram news feeds have a lot of great things to say about honoring that, so I'll let them do that part today, if that's cool with you guys. Next up on the list here today is we have a WhatsApp group that is kind of Roman ruins. There's not much going on around there. But back at the retreat, Jamie, a friend of ours here in the community, started a WhatsApp group, and there's 17, 18 people in there. And I just was a while back, I'm like, how's the WhatsApp group doing? And then I realized, what's up, Josh and Gabby? You're not coming in without an absolute spotlight on you. There's seats right up front, friends. Come on, But the WhatsApp group is I was like, what's going on with the WhatsApp group? And then it dawned on me, and you brought the baby. And Judah's like, yeah. I love, you're getting me distracted with your handsome golden retriever. We were just talking about getting a dog yesterday, and I'm like, I don't think I'm ready for all that. But the WhatsApp group, I was trying to see how that's going, and I realized I didn't have the notifications on, and I felt kind of like old guy status, what's going on here? And it's no, notifications are turned off. Duh. I'm like, nobody says anything in here. There's all sorts of cool stuff happening there. I just didn't know about it. Mary's inviting people to sound healing events. Other people are chatting, this, that, and the third. And I'm scrolling through. I'm like, awesome. So there's some of that happening there. I'll get a QR code or some, menu, COVID leftover menu QR code thing over here. Everybody's tired of the QR codes, but they work. So you can get connected to the WhatsApp group, or I put a link in today's Sunday letter if you get the emails at the bottom. But we're trying to facilitate more space there. And if you're somebody who's like really good at like being, back in the day when you had forums, you would have like admin people or whatever, or Facebook groups have people that kind of help moderate and curate that space. If you're good at that, I would love to invite you to help me with that kind of thing, because I'm not, and projector vibes are just what projector vibes are, and I'll be real hot on it for a minute. You might notice extra things on the Instagram story lately, and then sometimes you're like, wait a second, do they even have an account anymore? That's just how I roll. I need help, friends. So if you got help, you want to help with some of the curation, facilitation of spaces, would love to invite you into that. And then after chat, I did get notification Vicky is not joining us today, and then Daniel just texted me he's got a stomach bug again. So I don't know what Daniel's deal is. He's eating some weird Chinese buffet somewhere that he needs to stop going to. And, hopefully he'll figure that out. And General So Chicken bad there, dude. No more, Daniel, when you watch this. So he's got a stomach deal, so I don't know. We'll feel into after chat. If anybody wants to rap, I'll rap, and we'll hang out. And if not, you can go see your dad or whatever you plan on doing today. So at this time, we're going to light our candles, set our intention. And as Lindsay lights our candles, just want to remind people just about who we are and what we do. And if you're new around this space, what we're seeking to do is hybrid and really just integrate things that have been meaningful in our lives. And then, lo and behold, when you begin to be true to who you are and what God is doing in your life, you start realizing other people resonate with that too. And so having like the courage to be yourself and to share your own journey with transparency and honesty, all of a sudden, that's mirrored in other people. And they're like, hey, we kind of have that same inkling too, that same trajectory. And so as we've just shared, me being a pastor's kid, going into ministry, leaving that, venturing over into more Eastern philosophy, and now integrating it and trying to make some blender of what it means to be a person who is a mystic, meaning just direct experience with the divine, understanding that God is not somewhere out there, is not conjured by the correct belief of rites, rules, and dogmas, but rather an awareness to the divine spark within you, and learning how to tune into that with discernment to live in a way that is whole and integrated and healed. And that's what we're trying to do here. And so we do come from that Christian informing, but we're also expansive to understand that the divine is not limited to just one interpretation of the divine, but rather we're using that as a particular lens to see life through. And so this mystic Christian experiment art project that we call Current Collective, we're a nonprofit, 501c3, and we appreciate anybody contributing, tithes, offerings, donation. It helps support the space, but help us continue to grow into what we're feeling called that divine is doing here. So with the candle lit today, though, my hope is that we would take a moment to pause, because that's really what this space is. And so as we all rest into this collective space and this environment, coming from our very different backgrounds of leading up to this moment, we raise the light above to symbolize setting the light above where Christ is seated, the divine mind. And while we do this in our own individual lives, there's something particularly impactful about together directing our focus, our energy, our intention to being open to the Spirit of God in our midst. So even now, as we rest into this space together, we invite your presence, Holy Spirit. With the light above, we asked for illumination, enlightenment, salvation, wholeness, to be brought into clarity in our inner eye. As Jesus said, that the eye be brought one. And we ask for unity of mind with our inner eye to see from a divine vantage point what's happening in and through our lives. And even now, as we rest in, just invite you, if your eyes aren't already closed down, invite you to close your eyes and just begin to feel the natural flow of your breath. Not trying to force it, just noticing the natural inhale and exhale of the natural flow and rhythm. And as you notice the natural inhale and exhale happening, you'll notice that it's been happening the whole time, without your conscious effort. That the breath was happening all on its own. And as you notice that whenever you began to be invited to notice your breath, some of you may have started to try to take a deeper breath or a longer exhale, which is normal and natural. But before your mind was brought to the breath, it was already happening. And when we brought it there, it immediately started to try to control the situation. But it was happening before you. It will happen after you've forgotten and you're on to the next thought. Yet there's a trust and a faith in the breath that of its own accord comes in and goes out. As we sit together in meditation for this moment of sound and stillness, my only invitation today is to witness the faithfulness of your breath of its own accord, coming in and going out. And consider the carrying of the divine of your life, whether we are aware of it or not, in the same way that your breath comes in and goes out, whether we are aware or not. And what it might feel like to rest into that trust that you are carried in the same way your breath is carried. And when your mind begins to wonder or bring into question, if you can trust it, you have a tangible phenomenon that's happening. in the center of your chest that you can fall back on to witness the wind, the Spirit, which is the same word, coming into your being and releasing. We're going to take some time and just witness the natural breath coming in, coming out, and contemplating the faithfulness of the divine supporting our life. If your mind is wandering, just bring it back to the breath. consistency of the breath. I just suggest, if you feel invited, just to ask for God to bring more illumination into your being, that the light from above would expand as you take your inhale. And as you feel God's light and love in your being, allow yourself to feel balanced and anchored and grounded. And if you're not to that place, imagine what it would be like to feel grounded. Just imagine it. If the mind tries to reason with some other reality, just imagine what it could feel like to be grounded, to feel love, to feel the fullness of breath in your body. Just take a moment and imagine what that is like to experience that. Distractions will come to try to distort the truth that is within you. The faithfulness of breath is always a doorway to grounded presence and being underneath the noise. As we come to the end of this meditation, this intention, reminded of the great Meister Eckhart, who once said, if the only prayer I could ever say, it would be thank you, and that would be enough. So our prayer at the end of this meditation is a simple thank you. For the Spirit of God that's faithful to meet us here, to carry us, comfort us. But thank you to our soul that is always within us, ready to lead and guide and show us the way to move through this life. Thankfulness for each other in this space. That when individual lights come together, it becomes very bright. So we're grateful for each other, grateful for intention, grateful for the opportunity to be a human being with all of its ups and downs and confusion and clarity. Just the simple grounded knowing of thankfulness and gratitude to be here now in this moment, knowing that this moment too is fleeting. So God, thank you for meeting us in this meditation. Thank you for continuing to lead us and guide us and help us in this moment of engagement with the intellect to help us always come back to that which is deepest true, which is reality as it is, as you are in our midst. And so be it. Amen. Thank you, Lindsay. What an honor to be able to lead meditation and talk to you today. Thinking about this, I didn't think about the transition that I would have to do from that to this. So, logistics. Being out of town, I've not sat in meditation or done too much of that. And I always bring a book. I actually didn't this time because I got hip to the reality that when I go to visit family out of town, what part of me thinks I'm going to read? Like I used to bring like 3 books as if I'm going to have time and space for a relaxing, vacation in, Indianapolis, Indiana, where everybody's trying to go vacation this time of year. So, yeah, it's funny. I brought books. I didn't bring books this time, but I used to bring books. And it's just such a whirlwind. And so I've not had time for stillness and space. And that was, it's been really wonderful, like this week, getting back into rhythm and things. And it's like you don't know how to appreciate things until you take them away sometimes. And I just feel like, subtraction's always good. We forget that the rest note in music is still a note. They put it there intentionally and you don't play anything, but it's a note on the paper. Taking things away makes the music, I'm getting way off here, but, used to play in death metal bands and things. When you play a breakdown, which is this part of the song where everybody goes wild and punches each other, but they're friends. If you've never seen this before, you're like, why are they hitting each other? No, that's love. Stage dives, interesting. Why would you jump onto people? That's odd. But, when you have more space in the notes, it makes it heavier. I don't know what that is, but if you really want to get punched in the throat, you'll separate those notes out. Anyways, whenever I was coming back and I was thinking about this talk and all the things that are happening this weekend and all the directions that we could go, as I mentioned, that are incredible, valuable, important, and should have space for them. The only thing that kept coming up for me whenever I would find these moments of stillness, and sometimes stillness is like you got to really be intentional about it. Without telling you another long story, when I first moved here, it was kind of the same thing. I was moved into a new place and was working in a dealership, and I didn't have space for like my morning practices, and I decided that the bathroom was going to be my spiritual sanctuary. So every time I went to the bathroom, one or two, didn't matter, it was going to be meditation time, stillness, no Instagramming, whatever. And that was really powerful. And so I've kind of brought that practice in, which is helpful when you're in a place with people and there's a lot of activity going on. You're like, man, I can just kind of retreat back for a moment and just center and ground. And whenever I was bringing to light this, what we're going to be talking about, I was sitting on my in-laws' porch in a little town called Franklin, Indiana. It's like this cute little town. It used to not be. But it is, they've made it, this really cute little place sitting on their front porch from their house that was built like over 100 years ago, so it's built right. And it was super nice. They don't build houses with these big porches anymore. I don't know what the deal is with that, but, I watched a YouTube video one time, air conditioning changed that. I don't know, it doesn't matter. I'm sitting on this front porch, and I'm sitting here and I'm just like witnessing the cars going by and the stillness of the morning. And it's great when we go to Lindsay's family's house because I get a break. And we go to my family's house, she gets a little bit of a break. And so I'm sitting there thinking through this. And I'm like, it's just not, I don't know. It's just not, these things aren't feeling whatever. And I was reminded of our Gospel of Thomas group. That's what dropped into my mind, was our Gospel of Thomas group that we had. And the very last night, we were talking about these sayings. And if you've not been to one of our groups yet, Sika was there too. I'm like looking around, like, who else was there? Chase was there. Yeah, Mia, what's up, Mia? I've not responded back to your email, but I did read it, and I will. So I was thinking about this Gospel Thomas group. And the very last night, I brought up the saying 70. In the Gospel of Thomas. If you're unfamiliar with the Gospel of Thomas, it's 114 sayings attributed to Jesus, and there's no storyline, like if you read in the canonical scriptures. It's just 114 sayings. It reads a lot kind of like the Tao Te Ching, if you're familiar with that. And it's just like Jesus said this, and then a couple times some disciples say some things or whatever, but it's mostly just wisdom sayings of Jesus. There's no like origin story, virgin birth. There's no death on the cross, right? There's no any of this stuff. It's just wisdom sayings of Jesus. Some overlap, some don't. Some are really far out. So this is a version that I like a lot. I hesitated to share this with people for a while because the subtitle is The Gnostic Wisdom of Jesus, but I feel comfortable enough in my own skin to tell you that now. The Gnostic Wisdom of Jesus, which gnosis, inner knowing, whatever. This is a really great version. Jean-Yves Leleu, I don't know, I'm not a French speaker, but he's from France. And I loved his version of this. And he translated from the Coptic all of this over. And we were talking about this saying that night. And I feel like it kind of struck a chord with a lot of us. And somebody, I don't know who said it, Buddy was there too. I'm like, look at that, Buddy. And it like struck a chord, I think, for many of us. And it's a saying that sat with me for a while. We're all like, can we add one more week on to this group to talk about this more? And we're like, no. But maybe we'll do it at the next group or something. And so I want to talk a little bit about this today and just share some reflection on it. Because I feel like it's something that has really helped me find direction. I saw a thing on Instagram this week that was like, or last week, I think I shared it on the story, that was like, the compass was invented before the clock because direction matters more than time. And that hit with me. And I'm like, right? And it's like, sometimes we are so concerned with losing time or getting things done fast. And what matters more is about our posture and our positioning. And this has helped me remember what really is inside of me that is trying to come forth and to come out. And so saying 70 in the Gospel of Thomas, he says, Yeshua said, when you bring forth that within you, that is in italics, then that will save you. If you do not, then that will kill you. And so there's another version that's a little more lengthy, and it adds some extra words, but it helps me. And it says that if you do not bring forth that which is within you, then that will destroy you. And it might be where the band This Will Destroy You got their name. I don't know, but that's all I can think about the whole time. But there is this thing within you that only you can really bring name and form to. And I love that that's in italics for that reason. Because it's not as much about coming to particular ideas or conclusions or concepts. It's that feeling within you. You know, it's like when Carl Jung was asked, do you believe in God? He says, I don't need to believe, I know. There's that knowing that you have. That's what gnosis actually means. And there's a reason why they've tried to erase all of Gnostic things, because then you can't control an inner knowing. You can try to manipulate that inner knowing by questioning and putting that up against rules and regulations and how that fits within that. But each of us have this sort of thing within us that's that within us. And the key is, I think, is even without having form around it, learning how to rest into that and to bring out that which is within you. Because I love in this, like Jesus, he talks about that this is the thing that will save you. And I think a lot of times we look for salvation, again, in external things. Even whenever Jesus was walking, the earth, they were really hoping for, a great political leader to come liberate them from their oppression, which was valid, by the way. Major oppression then. People were looking for a great religious teacher. And, whenever he taught, like we talked about a couple weeks ago, they're like, nobody's ever taught like this before. And then he said some stuff they didn't like, and then they tried to throw him off a cliff. That's usually what happens. But we tend to look for what is going to save me. And I think it's interesting using this language because there is that feeling within us of fragmentation. And we feel this inner nudge towards a seeking of wholeness. And oftentimes what we'll do in our pursuit of seeking wholeness or salvation or enlightenment, we'll often look outside of ourselves for things to be able to bring about that sort of salvation or that sort of awareness within us. And there's a period of time where I think that's totally normal. The conditioning process is totally normal. I love Richard Rohr. He talks about, something has to be built before you can deconstruct it and build something else. It's not a bad thing. I think part of the process is accumulating all of these external things that we look to in our life. But finally, and you're sitting here because I think there is that nudge towards understanding what that is. Eventually, you get to that point where you realize that thing is inside of you. And what Jesus is getting at in this saying is that's what inside of you, that is the only thing that's going to bring about that salvation and wholeness that you're looking for. And this is like, I'm guilty of it too. And many of us in our culture, we get on Instagram. We're kind of getting hip to it now, where the $10,000 coaching program, that's going to be the key. We're always looking for the silver bullet, No shade if you spent $50,000 on retreats. I understand. But what you find out usually at the end of it is, I learned some more things, whatever, of course. But at the end of the day, I still have to live with me. I still got to walk around with myself, with my story, with my understanding, with the way that I process through life. And what we see is those are all can be incredible tools, for sure, not dogging them. But if we're looking for that outside of us to bring salvation, then we're often going to find ourselves in a place where we're still longing. We still have that chasm. And so thatness within us, becoming familiar more with that. And it feels very mysterious and it feels very elusive. But it's interesting to me that even whenever I talk about it, like I can try to at best put language to it, but it will never actually touch what actually that feeling is of that guidance, of that divine guidance that you know and you feel and you sense. And trying to put language around it, I think sometimes dilutes the potency of it. And when you start to actually participate with what the divine is doing in your life, instead of just looking for the product of what God can produce for you in your life, when you start participating with that and finding the joy in that, that I think is the salvation. But for many of us, at least for me, we sometimes suppress that we know is right for us in our life. Like, we often know. But then all of a sudden we get voices in our mind, whether if it's our parents' conditioning or religious conditioning or political conditioning or again, what will this result for me? You know, and there's a sweet guy I was speaking to. He's an older spiritual director, and he was talking to me about his ministry career. And he said, you know, a lot of this stuff, I felt like I was not in the right place back in my 40s. He's in his 70s now. And he said, but you know, I had a family, and I just couldn't really walk away from it. And a lot of times, I'm not guilting him. I mean, maybe he did the right thing. Only he knows what's right for him to do. But I just think how often he knew, like, this thing rose up within him, and you can tell he wears it on his face. It's destroyed him over the years, and only now he's able to really live into that. Because if you deny and betray yourself, the only natural result, I think, is that feeling of being destroyed. Something was lost, regret. And then you only get to when you're later, maybe in life, where you can look back and be like, you know, there was other possibilities. I think the gift is trying to get to that as soon as we can, of like, there's plenty of possibilities in this life. And understanding what's right for me to do is what's right for me to do. And not trying to always gauge it or judge it or understand it through the opinions of other people to be able to live my own incarnation. Hopefully you're picking up what I'm laying down. Some of this is hard to put language to, but you feel it and you know it. And when I think sometimes I struggle with that because of the implications of what it means and what it doesn't mean. But I found that I've used this language of incarnational agreement. I don't know if somebody else has already said this somewhere. I don't know where it came from, but I for years I've been thinking about this idea of an incarnational agreement. And what I think that is depending, I don't know where you land on your, understanding of life and the infinite and God and what happens here or after, or, if you're still, what camps you're living in. But just as an idea, just get curious for a second. And maybe just consider the possibility that before you came into this body and your soul is in whatever sort of like waiting room of an airport terminal before you go through, and you scan your past to be born into this life. And you get some sort of conversation for a few minutes with God or the angels or whoever before you split, and you're like, awesome. What family am I coming into? What's going on? You get kind of the rundown. I just think for some of us, maybe not all of us, there is like this incarnational agreement that's like, okay, cool, I'm good with all of that, and I'm going to take incarnation and be here. And if you didn't want to, well, I don't know, try another one on the next time around. But you're sitting here right now, so somehow you got into here. And there's these agreements that we make, potentially, about what our life is going to be about, our direction, the way it's going to go. Not only the good things, but the bad things too. And we begin to see, as Richard Rohr again says, everything belongs. And you start to see, not only does everything belong, but there are certain things, and I'm venturing into the realm of predestination. I'm not a Calvinist anymore, thank God. But could it be maybe that there are things that are for you to do in this life that are only for you to do? And because we're hung up on what those might mean, we're not actually living into the fullness, to the freedom of what you're actually here to do in this life. And again, only you know who you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to do. Because I was thinking about it for myself. I feel like there are things that I have not been able to do. Like, not permitted to do in any way. Like, I don't know, be a Medicare agent. Like, I tried to do this because I was like, a friend told me, it's passive income, man. No, nothing's passive, dude. Everything takes energy, everything takes attention and skill and care and all of that. And even doing insurance other places, like I tried to push that ball up the hill for so long, and I've had friends, and I'm like, even doing stupid Instagram videos trying to tell people what I do, and then people are like, oh yeah, I forgot you did that. I'm like, God, dude, how'd you forget? I tell everybody all the time, and then the most random things that like, I don't even remember that like I do and I'm skilled in, and people are like, hey, can you help me with this? And I'm just like, oh yeah, sure. It's like, no, like that's the thing that's leading you towards the way that you're supposed to live and move and have your being in the world. And oftentimes, the reason we're feeling a lot of friction and resistance isn't bad as a whole. That's how you make a sculpture. That's how you do things. That's how you grind your teeth on things, learning skills and all of that. Resistance isn't bad. Read the Art of War, or the War of Art. That's what it was, the Pressfield book. Resistance is a good thing. Resistance is showing you the way, but there's a particular kind of resistance. If you're tuned into it, it's a guidepost that's showing you wrong way. And there's all of these lights on the dashboard. And ultimately, when too many lights get on the dashboard, the engine blows up. If you don't follow that's within you, it will destroy you. And when you run a car out of oil, it blows up. I don't know. I still drive a car that has oil in it. So I don't know for you electric car folks or whatever, but if you don't heed to those, eventually, if you ignore them enough, they eat you alive on the inside. They eat your soul. And so I think yielding to those incarnational agreements, no matter how simple or small they might be, those things save us. They give us life, and they don't have to be this super spiritual thing. It can be very simple, everyday life things. I think that's one of the things we forget is like this incarnational agreement where like, I'm supposed to be Gandhi. It's like, no, not really. Like, you're supposed to show up to your workplace in a way that is benevolent to those around you. You know what I mean? Like, it's these kind of small things that ultimately get us on that trajectory that is leading us greater and greater into the fullness of who God is within us. Because the abundant life that Jesus talks about, this word abundant, just means full. And that fullness of life, I think, is what many of us are seeking and what many of us are missing in our life right now. And the way I think you find a full life is by surrendering to that agreement that you sense within you from God. And learning how to participate with that in a way that isn't just seeking the product of whatever it is. We're like, oh, I'm going to obey this instinct or intuition because I'm going to now be famous or an influencer. We're always looking for the outcomes, man. What about the participation of just being a human, being alive, allowing that to be the joy of life? And through that, we find that it saves us. And there's this Rumi quote, and I'll end with this. I feel like I'm kind of talking, just giving you a bunch of stuff. But there's this Rumi quote that I saw that I feel like was so confirming for me that I'd share it with you here. Rumi says, let yourself be silently drawn by the strange pull of what you really love. It will not lead you astray. And even the language in that, to let yourself be silently drawn by the strange pull of what you really love. If we're going to exegete Rumi here for a moment, I think letting yourself, to allow it, it's a possibility, but we hold ourselves so tight. We hold everything so tight. We try to grip everything so tight to loosen up and to let go, let ourselves be silently drawn. This is something, again, inside, in the inner temple. I love even in the New Testament that the temple is no longer a space or a place, it's you. You are the temple where the Spirit resides. And in that inner space, drawn by the strange pull of what you really love, because it's often strange what you're drawn to. You don't know why. You can't explain it. You're just like, I don't know. I just really like, I don't know, making cat t-shirts for Printify. I don't know. Whatever you decide that is that strange pull in your life. That's a holy thing, right? I don't know. Riffing here, Judah's helping me, but we have like, my pants kind of match him in a way. So that strange pull, I think for me, like I would dumb that down for so long because it didn't fit the life that I thought that I was supposed to be living. I didn't fit within this very particular understanding of the tradition that I'm supposed to be upholding that's now turned into a museum. And now people don't want anything anymore. They're like, just play the greatest hits. You know, you're like, it's annoying whenever like we're not able to be open and writing new songs. We talk about this song of the soul of our life. Allowing those strange pulls to pull you into the fullness of what you're here in life to do. And we judge it so much. We judge it so often, and we stunt, I think, what God's trying to do in our life. I'm like, I don't know that like back in 2018, whenever I like felt like I wanted to buy a camera and mess around with it, that all of a sudden 10 years later I'd actually be using that to like do something like legitimately. I didn't know. I just was like, I don't know. Like I saw it on Marketplace and was like, I kind of want to buy it. I kind of want to learn how to do that. It's a strange pull. I don't know. You just do it, you know? Or even like this strange pull to do kind of what we're doing right now. Is it strange that we're like, let's do kind of like a church, but it's not really a church, you know? And we'll do like sound bowls instead of having like Hillsong cover band, you know? And like, and I'll talk, but it's not going to be like a Rick Warren thing. It'll just be like, I don't know, I'm just sharing all this stuff that I've accumulated, and you're like, yeah, I kind of vibe with that too, you know? Like the strange pull of just doing these things all of a sudden becomes the thing that in life that you're supposed to do. And again, to use a Rumi quote, as you walk, the way appears. We just keep walking, we keep trusting, we keep following, but if we don't tend to that, it's going to eat us alive and destroy us. And so as I live through that, whenever I feel that sense of feeling like I'm depressed, I'm not in that right space of flow, I'm like, okay, what is within me that I'm not tending to? What am I suppressing? What am I not yielding to? What's trying to get my attention right now? And sometimes you're just depressed because you're depressed and that's how it goes and whatever. And sometimes it's because something is being destroyed within you. And there's an attention from the Spirit that's trying to be had of like, you made an agreement before you came into this body. Let's readjust some things. Maybe you're in a space right now where you're readjusting some things. You're reordering some things. You're understanding what it means to live as you. What are we yielding to? What's feeling like it's destroying you? Allow that to guide you. So with that, let's stand and pray for a moment and invite the Spirit to be with us as we close today. And so as we just pray, I invite you to just take one last opportunity for stillness before you engage the world again. And the way that we find that strange pull is by being sensitive to those still moments. So God, we thank you for this space of still moments, of words trying to do the best words can to touch on that is true. Just ask for whatever has been spoken or felt or received to be brought deeper into our spirit by your Spirit. Help us to have a sort of inner knowing of direction. We pray for discernment, to be able to know the right path and trust that all the paths that we have taken are leading us more and more to the moment of realization of who you are in us. Help us to yield. Help us to let ourselves be drawn by that strange pull that we know is so right, and trust that you're working out all things for good in our life. So be it. Amen. So as we close, I encourage you to say hello to somebody and to introduce yourself. Again, if you made awkward eye contact, that's your sign. Say hello to somebody, and then join on the WhatsApp group. I'll be putting a link out. It's in the email. It'll also be on Instagram too. So we'll be chatting more, getting some more stuff on the books. Have a wonderful day, friends. Don't forget to call your dad and tell him he's all right, and thank him that you're here because of him. You know what I mean? So, all right. Have a wonderful day, friends. See you in a couple weeks.